Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
And the only difference is this fourth quarter was much better, but shooting at 41%. And so 113-105. Budenholzer was Steve's assistant coach when he was with the Spurs. And Phoenix is now 10-2 when Kevin Durant plays. So 113-105 on to Denver on Tuesday. And the Warriors have to find a way to not dig themselves a hole on the road.
All right, welcome in. Warriors losing streak has hit 4 consecutive games. It is Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader, on a Saturday night, coming to you from Buffalo, where the 49ers and the Bills are going to go at it tomorrow. But we're talking some Dubs basketball here tonight as the Suns win it 113-105. That the final 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. That is the number to give me a call or shoot me a text here tonight as we react to this one. And the Warriors now dip after the 12-3 start to 12-7 overall, 7-4 away from Chase Center. And this team just can't stop the bleeding against a very good Suns team that is excellent. As you heard Fitz say on NBC Sports Bay Area, the television final call we played there coming in, when Durant plays, the Suns win. And when Durant doesn't play, it's a much different story. But Durant played in this one, and the Warriors got off to a bad start in this one, clawed their way back in the second half. But really, this thing was done with the bad first quarter and really an even worse second quarter, but not a lot of defensive resistance. The Suns just moving the basketball all over the place, and the Warriors' flaws that had not been there in the first 10 to 15 games of the season are all here in the last week starting to come out and rear their ugly heads to the point where the schedule's not getting any easier. And the Warriors do have a little bit of a cushion, but it's official. I mean, the Warriors right now are in danger of wasting the wonderful beginning to this season that they had with the 12-3 start. And again, the schedule's not getting any easier. At Denver on Tuesday, and then Houston and Minnesota, 2 games against Minnesota at Chase Center coming up next weekend. And then we'll see what happens as far as the Emirates Cup. So you're going to be playing some good teams here for the next couple of weeks. And so the Warriors right now at a point where they can't stop the bleeding, and they're going to have to find a way to stop the bleeding if they are going to be able to push back and separate themselves again farther from 500. They really had put themselves in a great spot to begin the year, and now it feels like it's rapidly slipping away. And again, a lot of the flaws that this team had last year and the last 2 years are starting to come up to the front here on a nightly basis. Poorer defense, although the Warriors did play pretty good defense in the third quarter, poor defense in the first, second, and fourth quarters for the Warriors here. The Suns just getting it going from 3, the over-helping, the falling asleep on cutters and passes and transition and all of those things. Shot turnovers on the offensive end as well. Bad shots that lead to easy buckets or more of a flow going back the other way. And so the Warriors really, truly, for the first time this season, in a little bit of trouble. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. That is the number for the phone lines and the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Appreciate everybody, as always, jumping in on YouTube and Twitch, as well as the YouTube chat. People are filing in here. We'll get to plenty of YouTube comments on the program here on this Saturday night, and already see Robert and Disco Inferno and San Jose Jazz Fan 4 and Estimated Eyes, Rebel to Sounds, a lot of the regulars, AJ Cruz, Jokes on You, a lot of people, everyone's worst nightmare, a lot of people chiming in here at the beginning of Dubs OT, and we got a lot of time to get into all of the comments. So some thoughts on this one. more specifically for the Warriors. Steve Kerr getting Stephen Curry back after missing the game on Wednesday, and so another lineup change for the Warriors, who now through 19 games of the season have had 10 different starting lineups, and tonight's starting lineup was the first time that the Warriors had used a Stephen Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Trayce Jackson-Davis starting five. So Podziemski back in the starting lineup. I think that's what's best for him and best, gives the team the best chance at having some success. I know, Lindy Waters III, I think, has played his way out of not being in that role. I think we're starting to see that they just don't view Moses Moody as a 2 again. They view him more as a 3. And look, Moses Moody had some rough minutes in the 3 that he played in the first half, but then you look up at the end of the night and it's like, gosh, Moses Moody only played 3 minutes. I mean, the fewest amount of minutes of anybody who saw the floor in this game for the Warriors. And so I think Podziemski plays better with better players. And so I would, at least for the time being, put him out there with Steph and with Wiggins and with Draymond and see how things go from that point on. So Trayce Jackson-Davis was also back in the starting lineup with Steph Curry and Podziemski, Wiggins, and Draymond Green. And Trayce Jackson-Davis was then replaced in the third quarter by Kevon Looney in the starting lineup to begin the third quarter there over TJD. Podziemski in the lineup, as we mentioned. Suns just got it cooking from 3-point range in the first quarter. 7 3-point makes for the Suns in the first quarter. 11 assists on 12 field goals. 7 for 10 from 3-point range. The story of the quarter. It was just the Suns hot. It was the ball movement. It was sleepy and slow-footed defense for the Warriors in that first quarter that really allowed the Suns to get comfortable and get their offense in a rhythm, to where tonight was one of those nights where the Suns can be the kind of team that doesn't even necessarily need to get their offense in a rhythm. They have just talented players that they can go to at key junctures to get buckets in Kevin Durant, probably the best. Just give it to him, get out of the way, and go get a bucket getter, one of the best in the history of the NBA. And so, but when you allow a team to get in a legitimate flow offensively, as the Warriors did, the Suns were able, I thought, to draw on that throughout the game as the Warriors would whittle the lead down. Suns would get it up into the 10 to 15 point range. The Warriors would get it back down to the 7 to 9 point range, and then the Suns would just always have the big bucket that they would need throughout the course, mainly in the second half. First half, it was just all systems go, and the Warriors, hot shooting in part, but getting a lot of really good looks did the Suns in that first quarter. Story there. Kevin Durant, I mentioned Moody, Kuminga and Moody both tonight, and I don't want to belabor Moody because he only played 3 minutes, but I thought Moody's 3 minutes were so bad that Steve Kerr essentially said, I can't play him in this matchup tonight anymore. Now, we can quibble and debate about that. I'm not saying that's the right or the wrong decision, but the overarching point was, Kuminga got blown by Kevin Durant on the first possession. He fell asleep on a shooter that allowed a wide open 3. He's not attacking the basket with the effectiveness that we're used to seeing him. He's settling for some bad shots as well. Kuminga was a really rough one. He was 0 for 8 before he hit a bucket, and basically had 3 garbage time buckets, and really, really struggled. 0 for 3 from 3 in this one. And as the Suns really elevated their lead, it was early in the second quarter when things got moving, and it was a lineup of Podziemski, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins with Kuminga and Trayce Jackson-Davis. And that was the group that really couldn't do it against the Suns. And again, ball movement from Phoenix, some bad shots, some misses, and you look at it and the Suns were just in rhythm. They had 1 bucket in the final 2-3 minutes of the first quarter, and then they still had 1 bucket from it was basically a 5-6 minute stretch there into the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter. 1 basket at that point, and the Warriors were quickly down 12 at 41-29 in the second quarter. They would then start cut it down to 6 after trailing by 12. Kyle Anderson came in for Kuminga at that point. Lindy Waters came in for Buddy Hield. And then the Suns hit back-to-back threes after the Warriors had cut it to 6, and it was right back to 12. Warriors got beat on a cut. Steve Kerr was ticked. He called a timeout. And the Suns all of a sudden are up 15 and then 16 on a Grayson Allen 3 late in the half. And then the Suns also had their largest lead at that point of the game at halftime, 66-49. And Steph Curry, just not enough Steph Curry, only 5 field goal attempts for Stephen Curry in the first half. The Suns were trying to take him out of it, but I thought the Warriors were really just kind of running their offense, and the Suns were trying to defend Curry, and the shots weren't necessarily there. And so he was allowing for his teammates to get involved, and nobody was really able to get involved. And then you've got the ultimate in ball movement and shooting going the other way for the Suns in that first half. And it all added up to the 17-point deficit, and incredibly 21 assists for the Suns on 23 made field goals in the first half. It was a lot like what we would see the Warriors do throughout the years to other teams, just absolutely picking them apart with excellent shooting and fantastic ball movement as well. And so the Warriors were in big trouble. How would they respond in the third quarter? Steve Kerr made the lineup change that I mentioned. Kevon Looney went in for Trace Jackson Davis. And the Warriors did outscore the Suns 29-19 in the third quarter, although so they were at that point, the Warriors had cut it from 17 down to 7 early on. Curry got it going. And that's simply put, I mean, higher defensive intensity in the third quarter. And then Stephen Curry got it going. 15 of, at that point, his 17 points in the game. And Curry would finish with 23. So 6 in the fourth quarter for Steph. But 15 of his 23 coming in that third quarter. Much better defensively. But wow, this team just cannot finish at the rim, whether it's Wiggins or Trace Jackson Davis or Kuminga. I mean, so many missed layups. Missed shots in the paint have been an issue lately. And again, another night where you look at the Warriors, 22 of 43 in the paint overall. So a little over 51%. They did win the points in the paint battle. Didn't matter because they ended up losing the 3-point battle 18-14. But 51%, you want that up closer to 60% if you're the Warriors, and just too many layups at inopportune times, and layups that could be dunks, layups that just aren't finished strongly. And so you look up there, and again, I think that's a lot of Wiggins and TJD and Kuminga tonight, especially, which again, it's unlike Kuminga. Usually if Kuminga can get all the way to the cup and dunk it, that's when he's successful, but he's getting his shot blocked. He's getting his shot challenged and missing at the rim more than we're seeing him usually have that happen. But yeah, just a lot of missed layups. Could have been a better outcome than it even was for the Warriors in that third quarter, but a much better defensive effort. Suns only made 2 threes in the quarter. They made 7 in the first, 7 in the second, only 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth. So the Warriors did a much better job of defending the 3. The Suns also, you could make a case, go cold. And then the bizarre sequence there at the end of the third quarter, as the Warriors had committed a foul with a little under a minute to go, and the Suns should have been granted free throws. Grayson Allen had been fouled, and the officials had the Suns throw the ball in. Suns didn't score. They didn't realize the error until after the quarter. And so the Suns got the 2 free throws back to begin the fourth quarter. And it looks like that went on the fourth quarter tally from the box score that I'm looking at. And the Suns end up winning that quarter 28-27, and the ball game 113-105. As again, a lot of Durant with a big block on Lindy Waters that helped stem a tide there. Kuminga was blocked, and it led to a Suns 3 to put them up 13. Tyus Jones, terrific in this one. And then the Warriors just kept coming back. They'd get down 15, and then they'd cut it to 8 or 7. They did get it down to 5 after that 8-second call. But all in all, not a good game for the Warriors by any stretch of the imagination. Kind of remarkable. They appeared to be in it at different points here tonight with the way that the Suns were playing and the way that the Warriors were playing overall. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation. Concern level rising, despite the fact the Warriors are losing for the most part, other than the Brooklyn game, to some pretty darn good teams in the Western Conference, but they are unable to stop the bleeding right now. And it's putting them in a position where you start to wonder, all right, with the games coming up, when is this thing going to end? When are they going to be able to get a stabilizing victory to maybe send this thing in the other direction? And then big picture, I think this 4-game streak, and you knew the first time the Warriors were going to have any kind of a losing streak, people were going to be coming out of the woodwork immediately that already wanted to see some moves made and now demand that some moves are made. And again, I think the other part of the equation on that is as the season plays out, you're starting to see the players who fit and are potential keepers. And I think you're starting to see some of these young guys. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it for the Warriors, a lot of the young guys that were mentioned in some of these trade rumors in the offseason are the guys who really of late have either been unavailable or struggled mightily. So let's get to the phones with James in San Francisco. First up here, our tip-off caller of the night on this Saturday on Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. Hey, James.
Good evening. Happy Thanksgiving. Just a couple questions for you. The first one is, what do you think of switching players that are 5 or 6 inches smaller than Kevin Durant onto Kevin Durant on a screen instead of hedge and recover? And then second, what's the rationale for resting Steph Curry the first half of the fourth quarter? I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, well, he used to be a very strict. He'd play the whole quarter in the first quarters and the third quarters, and then he would miss the first half. He liked playing full quarters. The full quarter, it allowed him to get into a rhythm, and then you're going to give him 5-6 minutes to basically at that point make it 18 minutes in each half, which is 36 minutes. Now he's not playing anywhere near 36 minutes this season, but what the Warriors started to do during the championship season is Kerr started to make it more of a 9 in, 6 out, and then finish maybe the final 8 or so. 9 in, 6 out, and then he can kind of bring him back in depending upon feel with about 8 minutes to go, or 8 in, 8 out, that kind of a thing, and keep it more around 32 minutes. So Curry doesn't like to sit twice and a half. You'll see some guys will come in, they'll sub out, they'll come in, they'll sub out. Like Curry wants one sub basically for each half. He plays his starters minutes, one sub. And so what they've done is moved it up as opposed to where they used to have it. So basically he sits right around the 3-4 minute mark of the first and third quarters. And then based on where the game is at, he'll come back anywhere between maybe the 9-minute mark and the 7-minute mark of the second and fourth quarters, and then go from there. And it's just the way they kind of map it out.
Mm-hmm. It just seems like it gives they're down 7 going into the fourth, and then but halfway through the fourth they're down by 10. It seems like it squanders an opportunity to maybe catch up in that first half of the fourth quarter, and then. When you're down by 10 coming into, 7 minutes left, it's not that easy to win the game.
No doubt. I mean, there's different ways to go about it. I think, again, he's going to miss his 6 minutes a half basically every game, no matter what. And he prefers it to be 1 6-minute stretch. I hear you. You could do 8 on, 4 off, maybe have him start the fourth quarter, but then he's not going to play the whole fourth quarter at that point. So you'd almost need to give him a little 2-minute sub in the middle of the quarter. And then maybe the middle of the quarter is where you lose the game. If let's say it's tied and now you got to get Steph out for 2 minutes because you want to rest him. Kerr also addressed that point he said it makes it really difficult when you do that type of rotation. It makes it difficult to sub the player out, because they tinkered with it a couple of years back, and there were a couple of times where the game situation, Kerr would just leave him out there, and then he would look up at the minutes at the end of the game, and it would be 36-38 in some of these games, and just say, hey, that's not going to be sustainable. So in a sense, it's planned that way in part to try and prevent Kerr from himself in those situations, but also Steph doesn't like the multiple subs per half. He wants to do one sub, and then he's back in around, beginning the half and closing the half.
Got it. I guess the other half of the question is about the Durant switching the smaller defender on it. I mean, Durant just seemed to exploit that. It's just totally tonight. He knew they were going to switch. He got the smaller defender. They screened with a smaller defender, and then he was 5-6 inch advantage every time.
Yeah, he's the perfect player offensively to because he just shoots over the top. I mean, his shot is natural, from that high position, and then he's 7 feet tall. And so, yeah, I thought that was the Warriors did get burned by that tonight in terms of how they wanted to cover it. And James, thanks for the call, man. A couple of good questions here. James's line open at 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. There's, you can fight through some of that. I mean, the Warriors do like to be a switching defense, but you got to be physical, and you got to have length, and you got to try to, get your arm up and battle. And, the Warriors did, I think, too often tonight. You want to make it tough, and you kind of hope Durant's having a little bit of an off night. And tonight, Durant was not having a little bit of an off night. And yeah, he hunted, as he always does, the smaller players on the switch. And look, he was 7 of 20. I mean, he did miss some shots tonight, but you look up and 21, 10 and 10, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks. I mean, he was kind of doing everything. He didn't shoot it great tonight, but every time he really needed one, it felt like he could get it, and especially with the smaller player on him, because he just is able so effortlessly to just shoot over the top with it. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627, Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. JD, do you feel if play continues and the losses keep piling up that it'll be much less likely for a major trade? Well, that's the question. And the question is, I think you could make the case that as the losses pile up, it should make it more likely that they look to make a major trade. And I think that's where the frustration among the fan base is going to start to seep in. And I think you're really starting for the first time now that this losing streak has hit 4 games, and the Warriors really for the last 2 weeks have not played that well. You're starting to feel some of that angst of, hey, this team, it clicked really well at the beginning. They lost DeAnthony Melton. Things are not quite going as well as they were. They've had, some injuries here and there. Some of the younger players are not performing at the level they did early. Buddy Hield has fallen off from what he was providing in the first couple of weeks of the season. And now you got to go do something, because I think there were a lot of people that were underwhelmed at what the Warriors did in the offseason. And the Warriors came in a very connected group and were playing quality basketball. And it was really clicking and flowing. And so, I know Draymond a couple of nights ago wasn't worried. Steve Kerr has doubled down a couple of times here in the last week, thinking this team's really good and that they have, the depth and the balance that they need to get through the long haul of a regular season. Maybe this just is a tough stretch where they let one game that they really need slip against Brooklyn, really 2, when you look at being up 18 in San Antonio a week ago tonight when this whole 4-game losing streak started. And so, if you get one of those games, you're 13-6. If you get 2 of those games, you're 15 and 4 at that, or wait, no, you're 12-7. So you get one of them, you're 13-6. You get 2 of them, you're 14-5. Right now, and you still feel like you're among the top 3-4 best teams in the league. But no, I think the problem, though, that it creates is I think you want to be more likely to make a trade as the losses pile up. But the problem with that is the fact that the young players that you'd be looking to put in a trade are not playing well. And it's Brandon Pajemski and it's Jonathan Kuminga and, to a lesser extent, Moses Moody. I mean, Moses Moody's somebody that the Warriors just signed, so I don't think they're looking to move him. But the two are Pajemski and Kuminga, who are just not, I mean, their value is not what you would want it to be. Part of the thought process between, hey, build this deep team that's connected and can play well cohesively together and get off to a really good start is that all of those guys are going to be working together and clicking together and playing well enough to where their value goes up. Part of the reason you stand pat coming into this year is the fact that you believe that those guys are going to be playing better this year than they did last year to where their value goes up, and then you can look to move them somewhere maybe to get another player. But now, part of the reason the Warriors are not playing as well is the fact that those guys specifically are not playing as well, and so their trade value goes down, and it kind of leaves you in this cycle of having an inability to improve the roster. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. It is Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader on this Saturday night as the Suns beat the Warriors 113-105 is the final. So the Warriors have lost 4 in a row. They're 12-7 after the 12-3 start. We'll come back. We'll get into the YouTube chat, and we'll hear some of the best post-game sound as well from Phoenix right here on the Sports Leader.
Hoops Heads, Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps balling. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Wiggins an open three. Got it. Inside out. Okay, that's big. Well, you got a game now. If you pitch a shutout, you got a chance. Oh, and they come up with a steal. Kuminga on the drive to hammer it down.
Oh, my goodness.
You got a two-possession game.
Warriors are trying to pull off a miracle. Full court pressure now.
Yeah, no miracle tonight for the Warriors, but they did at that point cut it down late to 108-103. Kuminga with the dunk there off the steal, and they got an 8-second call and a Curry layup. So they did it at one point after the Suns had been up by 13 there in the final minutes, cut it all the way down to 5. Suns, though, do go on to win and beat the Warriors. 113-105 is the final. So the Suns are 11-8, and the Warriors dip now to 12-7 on the season. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's dig into the YouTube chat here. A lot of great comments, and I hope everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And we'll just kind of start right from the top here. Robert chiming in, as these losses keep piling up, it's really starting to feel much like last year if we're keeping it real. I think that's the most alarming thing, is the ways that the Warriors are losing, whether it's blown leads on nights that they play really well, whether it's the overhelping defense allowing easy baskets and wide open threes, or it's the stagnating offense as the game goes on where there is just no secondary scoring whatsoever. It is at its worst, and it's taken a month or so to view what this team has looked like facing a little bit of adversity. And I think the most alarming thing is the fact, and Robert's all over it, that it does look like last year, and you got to nip that as quickly as you can. And however you need to do it, you got to try to get that to a point where you stop the bleeding somehow. And if you deem that this team, as it's currently constituted, is unable to stop the bleeding, then you got to look to make some kind of a move. I think standing pat, if this continues, is probably the worst possible thing that the Warriors could do. Disco Inferno. This Warriors team won't win 40 games unless they make a huge trade. Not enough frontline talent, and Curry is too old now to carry this club. I don't know that he's too old to carry him on a night in, night out basis. That I think is a fact. That is a fact. And they are intentionally, I think, not allowing him to carry this club at the level that he once did. And a part of that is just the minutes and the fact that he's, nobody on this Warriors team is averaging 30 minutes a game. And tonight, Steph did end up with 32 after not playing since Monday. And they had some guys into the 30s, Draymond into the 30s, Wiggins, Steph, Pajemski, who I thought played better tonight than he has of late. But still, he's, I think, slowly getting back to, he had a real rough one the other couple of games ago. He had some real rough ones, but I think he's played better. 2 games in a row where he's played a little bit better, and they're going to need that, getting back to the assists and the rebounding. And, he did make a couple of threes, started off well, really, I thought trailed again as the game went on. But yeah, you look at they are by design not wanting Steph Curry to carry this team at the level that he's had to in the past. And I think they thought that they were deep enough to be able to have enough to win games and not have him have to be the carrier. But tonight they got to come up with something that's a little bit more consistent. And how do they do it, I think, becomes the key question. Robert, those wins against OKC and Boston feel similar to last year when they beat Boston and Phoenix at home, which ended up just being minuscule on the radar. Yeah, we'll see. I think those wins were more impressive. I mean, those were road games. Those were road games, this year. And I know the Thunder and Celtics had some players out in those games. Porzingis and Jaylen Brown. Chet Holmgren went out in that game when the Warriors won in Oklahoma City a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago tomorrow. They won that game. So I don't know if those are necessarily outliers. Robert also adding, and I think this is a real strong point, by the time they decide if they want to make an impactful trade, it might be too late. And that's a huge concern. It's they stood pat when they couldn't get the deal they wanted in the offseason. They can't stand pat too long now. And Robert responding, I agree, JD, with them needing to make a move as opposed to standing pat. I struggle seeing them create a good enough package, especially with the way guys like Pods are playing. Yeah, Pods and Kuminga. I mean, Kuminga started poorly, had a really good couple of week stretch, and he has not been good since, in the 2 games. And tonight he was not good. He was good in the second and third quarters the other night. He was not good in the first and the fourth quarters the other night. He's still not good enough defensively, which I think is got to be the most alarming thing. You would think that 4 years in the fourth year in the system, he would be able defensively to hold up at a greater level than he has. Rebel DeSounds, this is the worst loss of the season so far. I don't know about that. I think the worst loss of the season so far was the Brooklyn game. I think if you win the Brooklyn game, you can lose the San Antonio game, as I've said, and even the OKC game without Steph. I mean, it's as frustrating as losing to OKC is without Steph. It's that's not a game you necessarily think you're going to win going into it. And so I think you look at that. I wouldn't say this is the worst loss. I don't know if Rebels being a little running a little material there or not, but no, I don't think this is the worst loss of the season. But yeah, the Warriors did estimated eyes. Last 3 have been stinkers. Yeah, I think the game tonight, the game tonight was the worst I thought of the last week for sure. Competitive for the final 3 quarters against the Thunder. They were competitive. I mean, should have won the game against Brooklyn. I mean, that's the one that just and had the big lead against San Antonio. So to me, I will say this is the worst loss of the last week. But yeah, Rebel DeSounds, all those weak Warriors layups getting wasted. Estimated eyes, if you can't defend, you're going to lose quick. You're going to lose big. And so, yeah, just people chiming in. Appreciate it. Everybody here in the YouTube chat, as always, Dubs OT. We love our YouTube community. It's the 1-year anniversary of Dubs OT tonight as well. So a shout out to everybody who's been with us from the jump, our community here on Dubs OT. And so, yeah, we'll see how things continue to shake out for the Warriors. But it's been an absolute pleasure here for the last year to have Dubs OT on KNBR. Joke's on you. Kuminga being untouchable did not age well. Yeah, look, I don't know that Kuminga's untouchable, but it feels like Kuminga's untouchable unless it's going to be for a star. And that's where I think, the Warriors, as you get back to the trades, that's where the Warriors have to make an adjustment as to their thinking. Like, they have to quit thinking at some point that if they want to make a move, that they're only going to trade Jonathan Kuminga and or Brandon Pajimski for a star. And I think that's where the debate really becomes fascinating, because if you think that you have a good team right now, but you want a couple of players to come in to help stabilize and or augment, then you may have to be willing to give up a younger player for a role player. And that's not something that I'm necessarily sure that Joe Lacob and company really want to take a look at doing right now. I think that's something that, they're going to have to keep in mind. No cap 757, another L coming in Denver. Quite possibly, although the Nuggets have been up and down at the beginning of this season. And, the Warriors, you never know. They've been a good Cup team to this point, 3-0 in the Emirates Cup. So that's their fourth and final Emirates Cup pool play game. So we'll see what ends up happening at that point. No cap. JD, did you listen to the plus minus Slater and Marcus Thompson saying how much this team misses JP after they all bashed him? I have not heard that most recently. But look, Jordan Poole, I mean, the Jordan Poole situation has been litigated. I mean, there wasn't going to be a way that Jordan Poole was going to be able to come back given the way that everything happened. And look, Jordan Poole didn't want to be back. Jordan Poole didn't play well after the punch. I mean, Jordan Poole really went through 2 years of being awful in a lot of ways, 2 seasons. Entirely his fault, not necessarily, but I think there was also some immaturity shown by Jordan Poole on the court. Like, look, that is long gone, though. I mean, that is a long over debate. Like, we can't be going back right now on December 1st, November 30th, 2024, and relitigating Jordan Poole and whether or not they should have traded him or not. But yeah. Sear, I was never a fan of Kuminga's game. Drives to the basket, misses, cries for a foul. He doesn't get it. And then when he does get it, he misses the free throw. Yeah, Kuminga's missed too many free throws. I will say that. He does miss too many free throws. And they need better. They need him to be more consistent because he does have the ability to get to the free throw line, but he's not finishing at the rate that you really want to see him finish. And I think that's been something that's problematic. GSW Vera, we're a middle of the pack team. That's the reality. Well, it looks that way. It is starting to look more and more that way as this team. And look, 12-7 is better than middle of the pack, I think. Although your nightly check of the Western Conference standings in the NBA, we'll see where the Warriors are because they were right there at number 1, number 2, and now they are all the way down to 4th at 12-7. The Grizzlies 13-7, Mavs at 12-8, and yeah, you looked at the Warriors who were number 1 a week ago when this losing streak started, and now Oklahoma City's won 4 in a row. The Warriors have lost 4 in a row, and yeah, they're 3 games back at the top spot. And they're only a game or so up now on the group that's on the outside looking in as far as the top 6 in the Western Conference, which is what you want to obviously avoid having to be in the play-in tournament. And it's not totally early anymore. We're almost here, 19 games in? We're almost here to the quarter pole. I mean, basically, you get through the game on Tuesday and next week, and we're at the quarter mark of the season, and it's not totally early anymore. And you start to see who's separating, who's having surprise first quarters this season. I think the Warriors were maybe the positive in terms of a surprise first quarter there. And then, Minnesota's been disappointing. The Kings have been really disappointing. And then there is a glut of teams that are all kind of hanging in there around each other. So we'll see. I think the Warriors are losing the cushion that they had far too quickly, and I think there's something that they're going to have to be able to overcome and separate again. Otherwise, they are going to wind up kind of in that same glut that they were in over the last couple of years, either trying to get into the play-in tournament or avoid the play-in tournament by getting into the top 6. CA. The losses to Brooklyn and OKC really suck right about now. Yeah, OKC was right there for them to get, but again, I've said it a million times, and I'm going to say it one more time right now. The Brooklyn game is the one. Robert, scary tonight. The Suns didn't have Beal, and it didn't really matter. Yeah, no, it didn't. And again, Durant's the guy that really stirs the drink in terms of the wins and losses for them, but they had more than enough in this one from Booker and Durant, who didn't even shoot it well They did from 3, but not overall. 8 of 20 for Booker, 7 of 20 for Durant. And the Suns, though, spread it around in terms of the 3-point field goals made. I'm looking at the Suns. I mean, wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 players for the Suns had 3 or more 3-point makes. And then Monte Morris, 2 for 3. I mean, really, that's the ball movement, 31 assists on 38 made field goals for the Suns. That's where they get the job done here. And then you look at the 3-point line, and Durant hits 3, and Tyus Jones hits 4, and Allen hits 3, and Booker hits 3, and O'Neal hits 3, and then Monte Morris a 2 for 3 as well. So yeah, 4 for 5 for Jones, 3 for 4 for O'Neal, a 2 for 3 for Monte Morris. I mean, that's how you win in the NBA, when you get a lot of the role players and the big name players that are able to perform at that level, shooting the basketball and limited touches with that efficiency. Andis Brown, man, the Warriors defense in the first half was bad. Way too many blow-bys. Could not agree with you more, Andis. The point of attack defense has just not been there in the last 2 weeks, and it's led to blow-bys, and it's led to blow-bys for kickouts, and it's led to the Warriors defense just being in scramble mode, trying to rotate to 3-point shooters, and they have not been able to do it successfully, and teams are getting a lot of really open looks at different points in games from 3-point range, and that's really what got the Suns off in that first quarter, 7 of 10 from 3, and then 14 3-point makes in that quarter, or in the half for the Suns. Again, cooled off a little bit in the second half. Estimated eyes, how is Pods, Lindy, JK a better matchup than Moody? Now, that may have been in response to something else here, but I wanted to look. I mean, Pods is going to play because he's a guard. Like, Pods is not, I don't think, competing for minutes. I think, Moody and Kuminga maybe could be competing for minutes. I feel like they don't view Moody as a guard again. And so, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And right now it feels like they're viewing Moody more as a small forward type. I think it also kind of depends on the matchups. I think there are some matchups where they think he can play the guard spot against certain teams. I think there's some matchups where they think they need to put him as more of a wing or a forward. Andis Brown, issue with Kuminga. He needs to get his free throws back up to 75-80% if he's going to live in the paint and drive. Yes, he does. He has to get back to being somebody that can be counted on at the free throw line. And tonight, 4 of 6 for Jonathan Kuminga at the free throw line. And yeah, that's just not going to be good enough. It can't be in that 67% range. You can get away with a 4 of 6 if the next night you're going 7 of 8. And that's sort of how it ends up balancing itself out. Disco Inferno, a little extreme here. The current roster is terrible. They can't win 40 games. Outside looking in come playoff time. Kerr can't even coach this mess to being competitive. Well, they've already been more than competitive to this point. So, it's not all lost. And then, a couple of estimated eyes, 3 minutes for Moses Moody. It was a really bad 3 minutes. It was a really bad 3 minutes. But to get to a point where it's the only 3 minutes he plays for the entire game, like Kerr just said, this isn't a good matchup for him. He's not playing well. I ain't going back to him. Like, how does that happen? Like, that seems extreme to me. But, the 3 minutes were not good. And I thought that the most critical juncture of the game was the second quarter where it ended up being, it was the end of the first quarter and beginning of the second quarter where, Moody was out there with Moody was out there with Looney, Kuminga, Hield, and Spencer a little bit at the final couple minutes of the first quarter. And then, or the final 3 minutes, I guess, that was all he played. And then the beginning of the second quarter with Podziemski, Hield, Wiggins, Kuminga, TJD. Those two lineups were the lineups that really put the game to where the Warriors were having an uphill climb for the entirety of the evening. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. The Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open. We'll get to another from the text line coming up in just a moment. We've also got Sounds of Dubs OT coming up here, and some fun with numbers, although when the Warriors lose the way that they have, it is not fun for Warrior fans. 113-105 is the final. More from the YouTube chat coming up as well, right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
This is KNBR, and this is Dubs OT with John Dickinson, streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Shot clock at 2. Lindy Waters got to force something, and Durant, beautiful block. Monte Morris lays it in.
You got to give KD that defensive possession. He's flexing on him, too. Moved his feet.
All right, welcome back. John Dickinson, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader on a Saturday night. Warriors lose to the Suns, 113-105. We got sounds of Dubs OT coming up here, and also some fun with numbers as well coming up at 808 KNBR. More from the YouTube chat momentarily. Big Sam in San Francisco wants to chime in, though, on the phone lines. So back to the phone lines we go here on Dubs OT. What's going on, Big Sam?
Hey, JD, how you doing, my brother, man? Thank you for taking my call. Appreciate all the work that you do and the wide world of sports that you cover, and I appreciate you putting time in during the holidays. Look here, man, I turned 50 about a month and a half ago, and, you know, I've been watching basketball. You know, I grew up in Los Angeles, grew up in the Bay Area, but, you know, grew up to 6'9" Michigan State player named Irvin Magic Johnson. So that was first love. But just because I watched the Lakers and loved that Showtime era, doesn't mean that I'm going to root for the Warriors and pay attention to them. When the Lakers aren't playing, I'm absolutely going to root for Golden State. And we fast forward to, and there's a big focal point that you spoke about, that the window is closing on Curry because he's going to be, 37 or 38 come early March. So, you know, he needs a lot of help. 37 in March. Here's the thing. The team started out, and I had a bet with somebody. I said, I bet the Warriors won't win 44 games. And when they started out real hot, 12-2 and things like that, I said, I'm going to lose that bet. But you know what? What's been happening is teams have been clamping on them. And the Warriors, here's what they do. They'll start out hot, or they'll start out really lackluster, and they'll have to come back down by 20. And Steve, you know, I love Coach Kerr. Great guy, you know, in every capacity he's been, player, coach, general manager. But I think he's really frustrated. And I don't see Coach Kerr being in the league maybe another year or two, because you need players. And I think you can maybe go along with me. State is missing that 15 to 17 point player will get you about 8 to 10 rebounds on a nightly basis. It's not Steph anymore. And you know, Kuminga is so inconsistent. And, you know, Moody's only getting 2 to 5 minutes a game. His ego and playing ego is probably really shattered. Like, you know, I'm still 21 years old and a top draft pick, and I'm not playing. So the West is a tough conference. And, you know, my Lakers, you know, I've accepted it. That window is that story is a foregone conclusion. They're going to be a playing team for the next 3 to 5 years. But I had high hopes for Golden State. You know, I thought after this hot finish, I said, you know what? They're in the category of a conversation of a top 5 team.
Well, they were at the beginning. Now it's slipping away a little bit to the point where they're more middle of the pack. And look, I mean, at this point, it comes down to when can they stop the bleeding. The Brooklyn game's just a killer in the context of this week. And look, they're going to have to beat somebody. I mean, it's you could say the next 3 games, the next 4 games. I mean, it's at Denver, Houston, who they've owned, haven't lost to the Rockets since before COVID. So, I mean, they've owned the young up-and-coming, you know, kind of this version of the Rockets as they've started to grow up and even adding veteran players. But then 2 Minnesotas, whatever happens with the Emirates Cup, you're going to play at least one good team there, if not 2. Because what happens is that the 2 teams that win play the 2 teams that win in that semifinal play in Vegas, but the 2 teams that lose play each other. So as a makeup game for the schedule. So you're going to be playing 2 good teams or hot teams in that mix as well. And then they go to Memphis, and then they go to Minnesota and play Indiana and the Lakers, and then it's Christmas. So I mean, we're making our way through the month here, and then they got to go play the Clippers again. So I don't mean to ramble on about it, but at some point they got to stop the bleeding here, or they are going to be right back in that exact same position that they were in last year, where it's around 500, a couple of games above, a couple of games below, and the identity starts to slip away. Because that's the one thing that they had this year, was at least they thought they did at the beginning, was they had an identity. And the identity was defense and ball movement and shoot the three ball and have a lot of depth, and everybody likes each other. And, that got them to the 12-3. But now they've dropped 4 in a row, and they got to figure out a way to be able to regather this thing. Otherwise, I think, all the hard work of the offseason and what they were trying to build, may not come to fruition, and then they gotta look to make a move. Hey, Sam, thank you so much for the kind words and for the call, and don't make it your last. I know you won't.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
All right, Sam. Sam checking in here tonight on Dubs OT. 916 on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Warriors need a trade immediately. Pods, Kuminga, Trace Jackson-Davis for a big, for boards, and 12 to 14 points. Yeah, Trace Jackson-Davis is the other one who has struggled, and he struggled to finish at different times. And, we've talked about Pods. I know the fans are frustrated with Pods. They're wondering what the heck's going on with Moody, and, not playing at the level that he's not playing right now. And then Jonathan Kuminga has, he started poorly, hasn't played great in his return. I'm sure he'll get into a rhythm again. Sometimes it takes a couple of games to get back in a rhythm, but none of these guys have made any kind of leap. And I thought it was unfair to truly expect a significant leap from any of them. And hell, I've said it. I thought the Warriors built this team to where they don't need any of those guys to take a massive leap, that you don't have to put that kind of pressure on an individual to be able to do it, that it was built, on the sum of the parts. And, that came to fruition for the first 15 games. Now you're starting to look around as they take some L's, and the strength in numbers component isn't quite what it was, and the defense isn't quite there, and they're stagnating offensively without a clear-cut number two. And then you start looking around and you go, well, who's making the leap? Oh, nobody is. And then it becomes all the more problematic as you try to evaluate how this team ultimately tries to get better. But yeah, I think the clock is ticking as far as I'm concerned with respect to when this team looks to make a move. CA on the YouTube chat, we somehow lost our mojo over these past 4 games. I still have faith in the team, but not going to lie, I can't wait for the future consolidation trade. That's the move that I think is that they would love for it to be a star, but I don't know that there is a star out there at this point. Do they trade, 3 for 1, and it's somebody that they know is going to be in their rotation, but then you give up a little bit of that depth, or do you just continue to look to roll things through? Tommy Huxley, I thought the rest would get them back on track. It didn't. Yeah, we'll see. And they're going to spend the weekend in Phoenix before going to Denver on Monday and having a practice there. But they've got another couple of days here before the games start coming rapid fire, and they are going to come rapid fire again, beginning with the game on Tuesday, and then another 3 and 4, and another 4 and 6 is straight ahead here when you look at what's ahead from Tuesday against Denver until that December the 8th game, the second one of the home back-to-back against Minnesota. Sketch Etch, the layups and free throws are horrible. Rebel DeSounds, the D'Anthony Melton season-ending injury really propelled the team into a tailspin. Yeah, I don't think there's much doubt. You look at the last game that he played, and it was the game against Dallas where the Warriors came back late in the 15-5 run in the Klay Thompson return game and got the last laugh. And, They did win the next game after that against the Grizzlies, but you look at since the Clay game, you start to do the math. Since the Clay game, the Warriors have the win against the Grizzlies, the loss to the Clippers. They beat Atlanta. So, they were 2-1. They were 3-1 at that point, but now they've dropped 5 in a row since then, or 4 in a row since then. So they're 3-5 in the last 8 overall. And it hasn't quite looked the same. Even in the wins, it hasn't quite looked the same. FL Dubs fan, it appears this 12, 13-man rotation has caused some of the role players to regress because they never get in a rhythm just a few minutes at a time. I do think that there could be a little of that, here and there, depending upon. I think Moody definitely gets caught in that a little bit. I don't know how many really truly get caught in that, though. I think Kyle Anderson maybe a little bit gets caught in that. Peyton gets a little bit caught in that. I don't think Kuminga gets caught in that. Kuminga usually gets his 20 to 25 almost every night, and but I do think there are some players who get caught in that as well here. A couple of more here in the YouTube chat before we get to Sounds of Dubs OT. Estimated Eyes, Pods is best playing the inside game, and yet clunks from 3 feet out. Yeah, Podziemski's he's got to relax and be able to just play his game, not worry about the shots. It's a night in, night out. I think he's made some strides here, small strides the last couple of games. And I do think Pods is the right guy to play with that starting lineup. I know Andis Brown added that on later. Pods started with Steph and Dre, got Pods going to start the game, but then went cold the rest of the game. Yeah, didn't play well the rest of the game. Pods from Sear. Pods is not a good player, just had a miracle season. There's a reason he wasn't recruited in college and fell to the 17th pick. Yeah, I'm not going to go that far at that point. But yeah, it's just Pods. They need the Pods that they had from last year to be able to make the strides that they want to make as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and get to our Sounds of Dubs OT.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the Sounds of Silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, Sounds of Dubs OT. And, of course, our guy Greg Silver, who is going to be back with us at some point, I think, next week for a show or two. So we always look forward to that. But let's go ahead and start here on Sounds of Dubs OT with Steve Kerr, who was asked pretty pointedly about Stephen Curry and the potential for him to be starting to maybe show his age a little bit and slow down. Here's what the head coach had to say.
Yeah, I mean, he's 36, this is all part of, getting older and, managing his minutes, his body, and Rick and his staff are the best in the world at what they do. And we're working together every day on this stuff. So, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I think, 28, 29 minutes, it's all good when you're winning games and everybody's contributing. I do think part of that calculus that Steve Kerr has to figure out and the training staff has to figure out, and I know Steph had told Anthony Slater and some of the reporters in the locker room in Phoenix that this knee tendonitis thing in both knees is something that he hasn't had to really deal with before and has the potential to be something that kind of pops up here and there if you don't give yourself a rest here and there. So thus they give him the rest the other night against Oklahoma City. And he also said, and I'm quoting, the deeper into your career, the more things pop up. And so, yeah, I think that also addresses the Steph starting to get a little bit older and show his age. I think the other part, though, that I want to finish that point in terms of you look at just how to map out minutes and a rotation and all of those kinds of things. There are going to be nights where Steph's only going to play maybe 25 or 30 and it's clicking and it's working and you can get away with it. But part of the equation is going to have to be finding the nights where he plays 32 to 36, like because you need him or you need to win that game or you need to try to make sure that you grab a win. It goes back to the old from the year before, the COVID year, coming out of COVID, the old chasing wins. Like some games you have to pick to chase, but you got to be careful when you pick to chase certain games, because if you don't get those games, then you almost have to pay for it twice, because you have to maybe rest Steph in another game after the fact, because you chased the first game. So all of those things are kind of, hand in hand in terms of evaluation moving forward. One more from Steve Kerr here as he explains why 13 players played in this one tonight for the Dubs.
Yeah, I was searching the whole first half. I played 14, I think. 13. Yeah, 13 in the first half. I was searching, played everybody, and I didn't love, the early part of the second quarter. We didn't have the juice and the energy. Draymond talked about it at practice yesterday. When you've lost a few in a row, you can't count on making 23s and winning a game with your offense. You got to dig your way out of it. And I didn't think our energy and our juice was there, our focus. So that's why I kept moving people around. And then second half, we found something. Obviously didn't play Moses and Kyle, and so we've got to adapt and adjust. If things aren't working, which obviously right now we're in a little bit of a funk, then we've got to think about the rotation and what we're going to do with it. But I like all these guys. I believe in all of them, but we have to do what's right to help us win a game.
Yeah, and look, I think when you lose, and that I hate to say it, and the folks in the YouTube chat are going to know where I'm going with this, I'm sure. Sounds like last year. That's searching, not liking the energy, trying to find a group that'll click together. And look, I think there's been less of that this year, which is why the Warriors have been more successful, but it's the old chicken and the egg. Has there been less of it because they've been more successful, or have they been more successful because there's been less of that? We can debate it. I think they've been more successful because there's been less of the searching and more of an established rotation where he's pretty quickly, even though he's had a lot of different starting lineups, 10 different starting lineups, he's been able to, for the most part, I think, find the right groups for consistent. It took him maybe 4 or 5 games, and he figured out, okay, I'm going to bring Kuminga off the bench, and I'm going to go with a kind of committee 2-guard starter, and I'm going to stick with TJD and Draymond together. And eventually it was all going to be set up for Melton to take the job. And I think that's really the blow, is right when they figured right when they got Melton healthy enough to be the guy at the 2 next to Steph, he goes down. And not only does he go down, but he goes down for the year. And now everything's kind of been flipped off its axis, I think, here for the last couple of weeks as they try to figure it out. And it's Lindy Waters some of the time. I think you want to go with your best players most consistently. And so I think Pods is again, not that he's played great. I'm not trying to, but Pods is somebody that, kind of like Kuminga, they're both going to play. They're both going to play on a night in, night out basis, whether they play well or don't. Like, they're in a different category than Moody or TJD or some of those guys. But yeah, I don't like the tinkering, and Andis Brown was all over it. We popped it up there on the screen. I have a feeling Steve's going to continue to be tinkering a little bit. So we'll see. But yeah, once you start losing, you tend to tinker more, and then it kind of creates that cycle of, well, are you tinkering because you're losing? And then, yeah, we're kind of back, round and round we go as far as that. All right, more here on Sounds of Dubs OT. Let's hear from Kevon Looney next, who did give the Warriors a spark in the third quarter and got the start in the third quarter. Kevon Looney, team leader. He was asked about the Warriors' identity and how that all played in this game tonight. as the Sun and how the Suns countered it?
Definitely. No, that's something that all year we talked about was being our identity was playing fast, being scrappy, being physical, playing with pace. We're really good when we do that. You got to find a way to do that for our whole game. We have moments and spurts, but when we're at our best, we're doing it for the whole game. And so it just starts with our defense. When we're able to get stops and we're able to push the ball, get in transition, that kind of sets the tone for our identity. And I think today we, they got it going early. We was kind of on our heels instead of having them on their heels.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the energy. And Steve didn't use the word focus, but I'll use the word focus. And they just didn't have the intensity, which is disappointing with a couple of days off. And I know there's a Thanksgiving holiday mixed in there that they were able to spend at home. So I'm sure a lot of family members around and all of that, maybe not feeling truly like the traditional off day. And then you get back to practice and you're flying down to Phoenix and all of that. But for them to come out and not really have that scrappy defensive energy, I think was disappointing, because it set a really, really bad tone for the entirety of the night, and I think forced the uphill climb. And more defense early, and maybe they're able to hang around in the game, or instead of pulling to within 6 or 7, they're able to get it tied, or maybe even take a lead at some point and kind of seize control of the game a little bit. All right, let's hear our final clip here of the night. It's Draymond Green, who discussed the rut that the Warriors are in and how to figure out a way out.
Not much, just challenge guys to play with force that we know it takes to win basketball games at this level. When you're in a bit of a rut, it's never going to be easy to win. So you got to come with the necessary force that it takes to win, or stay in the rut.
What's been keeping you guys from playing with force?
I don't know. Got to figure it out, though.
Yeah. Again, maybe the natural ebbs and flows of a season is part of it. Maybe it's the fact that they're starting to play better teams is part of it. But they got to figure it out quickly, because there's another team that hasn't been playing consistently with the force and focus and intensity that they've wanted, and that's the next opponent for the Warriors in the Denver Nuggets. So that is sounds of Dubs OT for tonight. Great job by our guys Kyle Haar and Kyle Chung in our San Francisco studios as well here for getting all of that put together. And Kyle, if I'm missing somebody else, let me know. Is it just the Kyles tonight? Just the Kyles tonight. All right, we get Kyle and Kyle handling business in our San Francisco studios. Final 7 or 8 minutes here. We'll get to fun with numbers momentarily, but I do want to continue to wrap things up. We'll take a quick look around the NBA as well on Saturday night as the Warriors lose to the Suns 113-105. I think the Lindy Waters, there were some comments about Lindy Waters III. I think it might be time to go away from Lindy Waters III a little bit. He was somebody that I thought the Suns were hunting in different situations. He's a pretty good, solid defender, but he's somebody you can hunt. And I thought the Suns were kind of hunting him. I think teams have attacked him more the more that they've known that he's going to be on the court. And so I think, maybe if you look to pare the rotation down a little bit, he's somebody that you would look to maybe go away from for the next couple of games or something like that. Estimated eyes, LOL KD towers over everyone on our team. Yeah, he really does. He really, really does. Sketch Etch, I like Buddy on the team, but people are expecting him to keep the pace he started up with. He's a journeyman for a reason, but as a sixth man, he's good. Yeah, I think that's solid. I think that's, again, don't get too high. I mean, he did play at a level that we hadn't really seen him play at in quite some time to begin his Warriors career. But if you've watched the NBA for a long time, you know that probably wasn't going to continue, and it has not continued. But they are still going to need Buddy Hield to contribute, and I do think he will get hot again. Regulator, they're going through a rough patch. Don't panic yet. Robert adding to the conversation on Podziemski. It'll be interesting to see if he regains the value he had going into the summer. And yeah, I think that's going to be, GSW Vera. Pods has plateaued. A lot of people frustrated with Pods. And again, I don't even think he was among their biggest problems in the game tonight. Although, again, anytime you're somebody that is part of the discussion of a major trade or a couple of major trades that don't go down, and some of the things that came out as far as the organization considering him untouchable, that, you got to play better. That puts some unwarranted expectations on a young player. And I think that has played a role in some of the struggles that he's had at the beginning of the year, and some of the pressure I think he's put on himself. I think he's put some pressure on himself because he feels the need to live up to some of the discussions that were being had about him in the offseason. So I think that's something that you always have to go back and look at. All right, let's go ahead and get to fun with numbers here before we call it a night.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors lose their fourth straight, 12-7, 7-4 on the road. Last time the Warriors lost 4 consecutive games was last season, early November. They lost 6 consecutive games after they got off to a good start last year. If you remember, they were 6-2 at that point, and then ended up losing 6 consecutive games. And it was really an uphill climb for a couple of months from that point on. Warriors still have more of a cushion this year compared to last year. Last year, after 19 games, the Warriors were 9-10. This year, the Warriors are 12-7, so still a 3-game improvement. Actually, the last 2 years, the Warriors were 9-10 after 19 games. Suns have won 8 of the last 9 against the Warriors head-to-head. Only the Stephen Curry night before the Super Bowl game-winning 3 at Chase Center in February. That's the lone victory for the Warriors against the Suns in the last 9. 5 in a row for the Warriors that they have lost to the Suns down in the Valley. This was the 11th clutch game of the year. The Warriors have now lost 6 of the 11, 5-6 in clutch games, the 5th consecutive clutch game, and 8th in the last 9 contests. So again, add that to the list as far as the many, many things that have started to feel a little bit like last year for this Warriors team. And yeah, that clutch games and not winning clutch games and stagnating down the stretch and poor defense are really allowing another team to get comfortable. It's all too much like last year at this point. 10 different starting lineups for the Warriors. First time ever that the Curry, Podziemski, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Trace Jackson Davis lineup had been used. Only 9 turnovers for the Warriors tonight. 4th time this year they've had 10 or fewer turnovers. They're 2-2 in those games, but you kind of feel like they waste one of those games tonight because typically the Warriors, when they do that, are able to win. And tonight, it truly, I think, was the reason why they didn't get blown out. The fact that they didn't turn the basketball over and not a lot of ball pressure put on by the Suns as well. Suns just 19 in the third quarter. That matched a Warriors opponent season low for a quarter. They also 19 for the Clippers back on November 18th in Southern California. Stephen Curry returned after missing Wednesday with the bilateral knee pain in the patella. And Curry had 23 points as he scored his 24,000th career point, the 29th player in NBA history to score 24,000 or more points. Draymond Green had a block in this one. which moves him into second place all time on the Warriors franchise blocks leaders list. And Buddy Hield continues to move up the 3-point list, now 17th place all time. He passed Jason Kidd with the 3-pointers that he made in this one tonight for the Warriors. All right, final couple of thoughts here. GSW Vera from the YouTube chat, if we're serious about that 5th ring, we need to swing for the fences. We know this team is middle of the pack. Yeah, that is going to be the key question. Do they want to swing for the fences moving forward here? And will it be worth it to swing for the fences if they deem that they're mid? If they're mid, you want to swing for the fences. But if you're mid, it's harder to swing for the fences, especially when the players you would trade have their value down. That is just the conundrum that the Warriors find themselves in. And if you're better than mid, as they had been through the first 15 games, then maybe you don't want to mess with it. So it all comes back to one of our favorite drops, which is Bob Myers. Trades are hard. Trades are hard. Or was that Mike Dunleavy? I can't. Was it Mike Dunleavy? I can't remember if it was Mike Dunleavy or Bob Myers. No, it was Mike Dunleavy who said trades are hard. It was Bob Myers who said it's exhausting. It's exhausting. All the drama between them. But yeah, trades are hard. Trades are definitely hard. I kid. But at some point you have to figure it out. And again, I think the worse this team plays collectively together, I think that makes you more apt to feel comfortable breaking this team up as well. So quick look at the scoreboard here and just some other games before we wrap things up in our final minute or two. Light night in the NBA, not much really going on in the Western Conference tonight. Some Eastern Conference games, Milwaukee over Washington, Philly won at Detroit, and Atlanta won in Charlotte. Dallas won at Utah. So the Mavs have been playing better basketball. That's really the only game of note in the Western Conference tonight, other than the Warriors and the Suns. Mavs now creeping up on the Warriors at 12-8, winners of 3 in a row, as the Warriors have lost 4 in a row from where they were at 12-3. All right, that's going to do it. Big thanks to the Kyles in our San Francisco studios. Kyle Haar, appreciate you, my man. Kyle Chung, appreciate you as well. And we will talk to you guys on Tuesday. Kyle's got a big day ahead running the 49er game. So, Kyle, I'll talk to you in the morning, my man. Good to be with you. Great job tonight.
Thanks, bro.
No, appreciate you. For Kyle and Kyle, I'm JD. Back tomorrow from Buffalo with the 49ers pre- and post-game, and then Dubs OT from Denver on Tuesday night, as I'll be catching that one in person on the way back from Buffalo. We will have Dubs OT right around 9:30 on Tuesday after the Warriors take on the Nuggets. We'll talk to you then, right here, KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Shot clock at 2. Lindy Waters got to force something, and Durant, beautiful block. Monte Morris lays it in.
You got to give KD that defensive possession. He's flexing on him, too. Moved his feet.
John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.